Welcome back to Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for the Giro Stage 7 from Capua to Gran Sasso d'Italia. Without a doubt, I think the worst stage we've ever had to cover on the podcast in terms of the proportion of the stage where there was sort of racing rather than a status quo situation. 218 Ks. Yeah, it was tough. This was a tough stage to be on the couch watching, even if you only tuned into the final climb, which was long. Flat first hour or so, or first 50, 60 kilometers, and a couple of climbs, one of which wasn't categorized despite being 15 Ks at 5%. Descent, then a 7K, 6% climb to Rocco Raso, another descent, another hour in the valley before a stepped climb to Campo Imperatore with 13.5 Ks at 6%, plateau a little bit, very open plain, and then the last 4K is about 8% kick up to the line, over 2,100 meters. So, you know, we did a big spiel in hindsight, way too long, the spiel yesterday, Benji, about how really there could be gaps on this stage, because there were in 2018. Like, Froome lost a minute on this stage in 2018, and Yates won the stage. But it didn't happen. I thought it was going to happen. When the break formed, I thought, oh, the teams have made sure it's a three-man break that they can easily control because they want something from this stage.
Exactly. Now, that breakaway that formed had three riders. Usually we'd call this the meme breakaway, but on this occasion, we'll give them some credit. Davide Baez from Iolo Cometa. Usually him and his brother kind of switch around of who goes in the breakaway in the Giro stage. Sometimes it's Mattia, sometimes it's Davide. Today it's Davide. Next to that, we've got another family member, not of the Baez brothers, but of the Vacek, I think, brothers. I'm going to guess that they're brothers. Karel Vacek, so not Matthias Vacek, not the guy that won the Gazprom UAE Tour stage when Alpecin wasn't paging that we mentioned yesterday. Karel Vacek is the man. He fought against Remco Evenepoel in the juniors and was actually competitive against him. I recall him being in the World Championships that Remco won, a pretty notable name and a rider that was an outsider for that race.
Same with Meyerhofer, actually.
Yeah, Marius Meyerhofer, correct. Yeah. And also that the dude that signed for EF that you're hyped about, the Italian that you were hyped about last?
Mark Hirschi.
No, that's not an Italian.
Piccolo.
Piccolo, wasn't he also in there?
Where is Andre Piccolo, by the way?
I don't know. Not in this breakaway, because Patili was in there instead.
Not even in the Giro. Like, he hasn't he did a bad Ardennes. Yeah, weird. Anyway, yeah. The interesting thing about this break was, first of all, Jumbo were kind of had a rider forward during break formation. They didn't seem to want the break to get too big. Maybe they just wanted someone like Sam Omen or Koen Bowman to slip in the break. Secondly, Astana were trying to get in the break. I think these guys who did eventually get in the break, Baez and Vacek, were jumping, and Joe Dombrowski got an initial move of 4, and then that break didn't go, and then the 3 went again. And it's like, if you're Joe Dombrowski, you're going to be up all night. You will be up all night after watching this finish, because he's won from better quality breaks on mountaintop finishes before, and to not get in this move must be very disappointing. I doubt Jumbo and Ineos and Quickstep were stopping Joe Dombrowski getting the breakaway. So I thought, seeing that break formation, okay, DSM will ride it, peg it at 8-9 minutes, because Vacek or Patili's on 7 minutes on GC, and eventually, in the valley before Gran Sasso d'Italia, you'll see Affini or Puccio or Ganna move to the front and start setting a tempo and just bring that back down to about 6 minutes, 5 minutes. And that never happened. Never happened.
It never happened. We did see the gap was basically 12 minutes for the majority of time until it went down to 9 minutes, because DSM did do something here. DSM did what we expected them to do, which is try to keep Leknesund in the Maglia Rosa. And they do that by pacing before the climb and pacing on the earlier slopes of the climb. And then if they have riders left in the later slopes of the climb, they'll put their rider up there again to try and set some tempo. And DSM did a hell of a job doing that, because while if another team had picked it up, the DSM riders probably wouldn't have been able to pull off the jobs they did. But the job they did was perfect for a day like today to be able to keep Leknesund's march up there as possible. So with 40k to go, DSM was very much at the front, and they were pacing in that group. And even on the climb, nobody comes to the front.
It was unbelievable. The break, Mulblahan was also in the break from Bardiani, but he got dropped before the final climb even started. So yeah, it was those three in the break. I forgot that he initially got in the break, because I was thinking, oh, Bardiani was the other invitee team that didn't get in the break, but they actually did get in there, and yeah, it just wasn't good enough. So yeah, I was really, really surprised because, like, is a Giro d'Italia... I know you... Okay, in theory, is a Giro d'Italia stage win really not worth that much to Ineos and Jumbo? Like, is it not... Like, wouldn't Roglic be the favourite for this finish? For years, for 5 years, Roglic has been winning finishes like this, right? In cycling. Like, soft mountainous finishes, which are quite hard at the end, but they're not that hard. It's from a group of 12. He has been winning these from the Vuelta. They've been his bread and butter for years.
Are they scared? Are they scared of Remco Evenepoel, who's batted his sprint over the years and has now become a rider that could win 45% of the sprints against Roglic 1-2-1, I would say, at the moment?
I don't believe so. After an easier stage, I still don't believe so. And
after the crashes as well, this is the moment to strike.
If you're not going to do it after 2 Remco crashes 2 days before, then when are you going to do it? Isn't that something you were waiting for? Same with Ineos. I thought, couldn't they... And listen, you've got the headwind, right? So there's a strong 20k headwind. That made a huge difference, obviously. It's an open plane. Of course, with a headwind, in theory, attacks can't happen, or are less likely to work. But I think, actually, headwind is a little bit misunderstood in cycling, particularly when you've got multiple numbers. So, like, we saw that in Tirreno Adriatico, the main climb was strong headwind, 10k, 6-7%. It got shortened. But Caruso went up the road, and then other teams, he is riding in the headwind, don't get me wrong, but then other teams are having to burn their domestiques or ride harder whilst his teammates get to ride in a seat. And so if you're Ineos, could you have used Arensman? Could you have used Sivakov? They're very, very strong, powerful riders on 4-3%. And then suddenly Quickstep, you really see the Quickstep have to do something. Yeah. Same with Jumbo-Visma. They got Hessman. He's a really good climber for his size. Could you have tried to play Hessman earlier or be a little bit more creative? And I think the answer was no one could be bothered to invest for a 4-second bonus. Yeah. If you're Gegenhardt, if you're Roglic, if you're Quickstep. And listen, Remco and Quickstep don't need to. He's already won a stage. He's got a minute lead. But are you going to... They're thinking, headwind, are we going to invest? We're looking at this week 3. I think it's short-sighted. I think it's short-sighted to just always think it's going to be 4 seconds just because there's a headwind. Because we saw in the last K, actually, that all of a sudden when the pace picked up, guys are really clinging on for dear life because you're still climbing to 2,100 meters. So I thought it was too negative today, even though I understand the headwind is the rationale for it.
Exactly, but when it comes to Quickstep, I've got another reason why they should not be pacing at this point. First of all, because it's not their reason to do it, but the second reason is also, if Leknesund stays here, then Leknesund stays in pink for tomorrow, and then DSM might still do some work to try and keep Leknesund in the pink jersey, and that means a bit less control for Quickstep, even though they will still have to do the break formation phase in the race. They will still have to control a bit, but that tiny bit of effort that DSM might take over might be worth it to not throw Leknesund off board today.
Exactly, and yeah, there's no reason for Quickstep to pace. They've got to hope Leknesund makes it in the group. Maybe AG2R move up later. Anyway, breakaway gets onto the final climb. After the first 13k section, I'm thinking, okay, in this valley, is someone going to peg it? Dennis is in the group. Puccio is in the group. Arensman's in the group. Hessman's in the group. No one moves. Quickstep just go to the front with Seri start pacing. So, yeah, if you do want to watch wall-to-wall coverage of the Giro, though, we'll be honest with you. Today's not the stage to do it. Just listen to the pod today. But tomorrow we think will actually be a really cracking stage, and that's one you want to watch probably the last 2 hours of, and GCN Plus is the best place to do so. There's also an Andy Hampson documentary coming, I think in a couple of weeks. That'll be on GCN Plus to keep you entertained back when there were, because today there weren't the horrendous conditions or really, really cold, nasty, wet conditions that I thought there would be that might spice things up. It was just headwind, dry, actually quite sunny at the end of the stage despite the rain at the start. But if you remember that Giro at the end of the 80s, Hampson, crazy, crazy Giro, that documentary is coming on GCN Plus shortly. So if you want to see that doco or watch the stage in full tomorrow, or at least the last 2 hours, I think it'll be really, really good. You get 15% off an annual GCN Plus pass in selected territories through the link down below.
But why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we do this to ourselves where the Giro route reaction initially a few months ago, whenever it happened in December or something, we said to ourselves, the stage is going to be like a group sprint. They're going to come to the line. They're going to do that. Break wide win. Might take the pink jersey, stuff like that. And why do we hype up this stage in the last 2 days beforehand? Why do we do this to ourselves? Why are we delusional?
2 reasons. First of all, the Remco crashes.
Yeah.
I thought he showed in the first TT, like, if he doesn't just collapse in the mountains, he's going to win this Giro on the time trial. Like, he's going to take a lot of time on Sunday on the Stage 9 TT. So if you're not going to try, when his team has already looked pretty bad, actually, on Lago Laceno, after he's had 2 crashes, bearing in mind that he crashed 2 days before Sierra de la Pandera in the Vuelta, he crashed on Peñas Blancas. He was fine on Peñas Blancas after the crash. 2 days later, he drops on Pandera off not the biggest watts per kilo I've ever seen in my life. And today's 2 days after, I thought, and then I saw the weather forecast rain. I was like, okay, it's going to be attritional 220Ks. Someone's going to pick it up. And then I also thought, if Geoghegan Hart has his Tour of the Alps shape, okay, Remco and Roglic weren't in Tour of the Alps, but he, as I said before, he toasted everyone there in these punchy finishes. Carthy, Haig, Kemner, Vlasov. Geoghegan Hart cooked them all. And even in Tirreno, he was strong in the uphill finish against Roglic without a great lead out. So I thought both Jumbo were going to try and take advantage of it for Remco. And secondly, I thought a Giro stage, remember, I think Ineos won 4 Grand Tour stages last year, 3 of which were in the Vuelta. It's not like Ineos in the last couple of years just been racking up. You know, first of all, they didn't win a Grand Tour last year, but they didn't win over 5 Grand Tour stages last year either. Like, a Giro stage win's a big deal. Especially for your British rider who might be extending, you know, Geoghegan Hart in his peak. So, I don't know. And also, what's the downside? Remco takes, okay, you come third, you lose 6 seconds to Remco or Roglic. You're going to lose a minute to Remco in the TT anyway. But you might get a stage win out of it today.
That's exactly the thing, because they did not do stuff today. I'm 100% certain someone will try something tomorrow, or they're just gifting time to Remco, because Sunday is the time trial, a long time trial. He's going to take minutes on some GC riders, a minute and a half on some GC riders. On some, it'll be 30 seconds, 45 seconds, but people will lose time on the Remco in that time trial. So they're basically not anticipating the time loss that will come in 2 days. Unless Remco's like properly injured, which I don't think so, looking at what he did near the finish line.
But his sprint was pretty good. Anyway, we'll get back to it. We should recap this stage. I don't know how we've got it so long already. Breakaways, Varcek is trying to ride steady Almeida pace. Patilli attacks him. Patilli's doing a lot of work in their open plane before the final 4Ks. They got a 6-minute lead. They know they're going to win the stage unless something crazy happens. Bice is doing nothing. He's following Patilli. When Varcek attacks, he sits on Patilli. Patilli closes. Varcek is yo-yoing. Bice played it really, really clever, actually. I mean, for a guy who's like, yeah, listen, he's been getting in a lot of mean breaks in his career in the Giro, but for a guy who's rarely been in this situation, he played this so cool, calm and collected, and Varcek basically led out the last kilometer. Patilli, I thought he's come 9th in Strada Bianca. He's probably the highest level rider in the group, but maybe he spent too much in the headwind himself in the open plane. He cannot respond to Varcek's acceleration in the final K, and Bice just steps off them and wins the stage easily for Yolo Cometa, their second Giro win in a matter of 3 years. Both mountaintop finishes from the breakaway, first with Fortunato in 2021.
Zoncolan.
Yeah, Zoncolan, and now on Campo Imperatore in the first week for Davide Bice. 9 seconds ahead of Varcek, third, 16 seconds ahead of Patilli. So he really conserved well, and then he beat these guys easily in the sprint. So congrats to him for playing it really, really well. Probably the best career results for all 3 of these riders in the break, none of whom had won a pro race before this stage. So it's actually, okay, yeah, listen, as we said, not the best spectacle. It wasn't, but it is good, I think, that there is a reward sometimes. Maybe not every year, maybe not every week, but a reward for the guys who get in those full-on breakaways for sponsor attention, and then all of a sudden they actually get to fight it out for the stage win.
Exactly. Now, with this breakaway, this kind of brings me back to the days where, for example, in 2019, there was a breakaway stage where Damiano Chima won, I think. A dude that went into the breakaway in Italian also in a meme breakaway, and they made it in front of the sprinters. That was much closer, though, because they were put in the same time as Ackermann, who came second, but that was kind of like a similar thought that came into my mind, but it's really cool to see Davide Baez, after so many times in the breakaway, take this. Vacek was interesting because he dropped, then he comes back, then he attacks. He drops, then he comes back, then he attacks. It was like a thing he did all the time. When it comes to the climbing, on one end, you'd expect more from Patili, who's on 7 minutes in GC at this point before the stage started. So it might have been close. He's going to move up in GC quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I expected more when it comes to the climbing. But on the other end, you can't benefit from his climbing that much, knowing the headwind is there against these two guys. So it's a bit of a, I don't know. Did you expect more from the climbing of Patili?
I thought Patili would win, but I think he ended up doing too much in the last sort of 14 kilometers, 14 to 4 kilometers. I think he did a lot of the work, and that cost him.
This is erasure. We did not mention the moves in the peloton. On one end, Ajdezer moving to the front. Wait. Ajdezer moving to the front, trying to maybe do something for Pare Panther, because he's on 30 seconds in GC before the stage, which is 2 seconds behind Remco Evenepoel, who's second. And you obviously want to take the pink jersey, so he'd have to do something magical to take it, but he might as well try, which didn't really happen because he looked to be done for.
Yeah.
But the brutal attack of Thomas Champion with 2.5 kilometers to go, that was the moment of the day for me.
It looks like it makes no sense, and then it actually makes a lot of sense when you think about the team. So
yeah,
the UCI points have really changed over the Christmas period. The UCI changed them with about 2 weeks' notice to the teams. And Lotto Soudal, Lotto Destiny, they're now called, got taken by surprise. Grand Tour stage wins got a lot of points for the top 10 on offer. You know, fourth is 80 points. 80 UCI points is a lot of points. I'm pretty sure that's the same as fourth in a 1-1 one-day race. And you can do that, you know, he's thinking, I jump from the peloton, no one's going to chase me. He's on like 30 minutes on GC, get fourth, 80 UCI points for just sitting in the group of 50. And we see in the sprint, he actually fully goes for the sprint and comes 7th, and that's definitely for points, as well as probably a top 10 in a Grand Tour stage. And for Korotek as well, for Vacek, who was in the under-23s still last year, like he came second in a stage of Giro d'Os de Mont Blanc, and he's had he was saying in an interview in Italian after the stage how he's had a lot of trouble to get where he is now, because he was a pretty hyped junior rider. You know, he's on Hagens Berman, Axion, the Pro Conti, when they're a Pro Conti team. He's on Kolpak Balan. Then he went to Quebecer. Then Quebecer folded. Then he went to get a Conti contract at Tyrol. Then he went to Korotek. And he's only 22 years old. And, you know, he did come second in that Vallée d'Os de Mont Blanc stage last year. So he isn't actually a terrible rider. And maybe he actually kicks on from here, and this stage result as well is an opportunity for maybe a Trek Segafredo pair him up with his brother Matthias Vacek, who's 2 years younger but won that stage of UAE Tour, and they pair him up with him at Trek next year. I don't know, but the 130 UCI points for him, for Korotek, that has to be their most. That's probably more than their entire year's UCI points. Like if I had to guess, like they're a really bad team apart from your boy Tiviani. So, but yeah, they got a good result today. But yeah, GC group, nothing happens. Legnison's not getting dropped. We see nervousness. We see Ben Swift go into a ditch, come back. We see people lining up their trains. And then suddenly it starts to thin out a lot. It goes from a group of 50 and it's all of a sudden 20 in the space of 500 meters. I'm like, it's almost like if someone took it. Like, it's impossible to know who, like maybe one of the people we mentioned didn't feel good today, but surely somebody felt good. Somebody in the top 7 GC, not all of them could have felt bad. And if you feel good, you should, if you're going for top 5, going for top 3, make hay while the sun is shining in the case of today.
Yeah, you're right. I was expecting like a rain is raining again, but sun is shining. Is it not sun is sunning if we keep up the...
No.
Okay, apparently not. Apparently I'm wrong. But I don't know, when it comes to UAE, I'm also thinking, what can they do? And then I'm more looking to Vine than Almeida to make that move because he's on further. So maybe that might be given some kind of doubt by other GC riders. Then again, they probably respond. But indeed, Movistar was the one that hyped it up a bit. I think it was Verona pacing for Rubio or someone pacing for Rubio.
I don't know why. But why were they doing that?
I don't know, man. I'm just trying to think. Maybe they were like, let's get everybody out of the top 20 so we can get a 19th spot at the end of the Giro for Rubio.
Yeah, they did that. And then eventually Ineos set up for the sprint. Thomas went to the right. Roglic and Jumbo had sat deep the whole climb, and then they moved up. Roglic was there, and then suddenly Remco burst from the group and sprinted full gas, showing that, I'm in good shape. Don't worry about me. Roglic got onto his wheel, no time gap. So Remco wins the bunch sprint for 4th. Then Roglic, then Pinot, who keeps KOM jersey, then Thomas, then Almeida, Dunbar, Scaroni, Buitrago, Gegenhardt, and then, ended up being... Who got dropped?
Who got dropped?
Jan Hirt looks terrible, man. Jan Hirt looks really bad. And I know this is not it's not the brutal stages, but he got dropped, I think.
But does it matter?
Yeah, do they just tell him, like, Glog? I presume they just stopped trying, or McNulty.
Yeah. For example, Jumbo's probably like, because Vervaeke at Quick Step, Jan Hirt at Quick Step, Baumann at Jumbo as well, they're probably like, just drop off the back. We don't need you for the last kilometer. I feel like it might be more that for these last 2 kilometers than actually them looking bad in this specific stage. But I will agree, Hirt, Van Wilder looked a bit weaker in the first part.
I reckon Hirt dropped. Van Wilder made the group.
I reckon he didn't.
You don't reckon Hirt dropped?
I'm going to be controversial.
I think Hirt dropped. He looked terrible and was sliding. But who knows? It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter because, it just doesn't. GC, a couple of changes. I think Gegenhardt moves up. Skuins drops out of the top 10, so Gegenhardt's into 9th. Roglic, I'm just reminding myself of the gap. So Remco is 2 seconds ahead of Parapantra, 28 seconds behind Leknesund. He's 32 seconds ahead of Almeida. He's 44 seconds ahead of Roglic. He's 58 seconds ahead of Thomas and Vlasov, and 1 minute and 2 seconds ahead of Gegenhardt, Cameron and Caruso. A little bit further back, the Bahrain guys, Santi, Haig, and Caruso obviously put on a bad gap after the time trial, and stage 9 as well for them is not going to be pretty either with the 30k flat time trial with their setup. So they're going to lose more time there, unfortunately. Yep. Anything else from this stage, Benji?
Not really. I don't think there's anything more to say. On one end, I'm kind of happy that Davide Baez gets something for getting in the break.
I don't care
all the
that
time.
They won. They could win, but it's nice. It would be nice to have tension. Are they going to get caught? Yeah. And I actually like having 2 races. I like having the break and then the GC action. But if it's just like break is given it and they just, yeah. Anyway.
Well, Pinot lost his blue jersey, I'm pretty sure. If we take a look, then Baez has it now.
Really?
Because Pinot needed to be in the break to be able to keep it. Pinot was still fighting for KOM points from the peloton.
That's a Cat 1.
Well, to be fair, Baez is not going to take the KOM jersey of the Giro, so Pinot probably doesn't care at all that Baez is in front of him.
No. Points jersey, Milan looked really good on the climb. I still maintain that Caden Groves, so Conchi pulled... Oh, this is some news before we get into the Stage A preview. There was some news this morning. COVID is here, unfortunately, in the Giro. And
Alessandro?
No, Covey. No, COVID.
Oh, Jesus.
Covey looked better today.
Yeah.
Nicola Conchi out with COVID. I believe there was a Cofidis rider out with COVID earlier in the week. And a teammate of Barguil.
Who the fuck was it again?
I'm trying to remember. He's like a climber.
There's a lot of climbers.
That doesn't climb so well. Anyway, Conchi's out, and then McEwen said on the GCN Plus commentary that Groves woke up this morning with a cold or feeling a bit ill. So, I mean, there's just something to watch. Not saying Groves has COVID, but there's some sickness about. We've had a lot of 200k stages. We've had wet and rainy conditions. It's not just COVID that can knock you out of the Giro or make you sick. But it's also COVID is something the teams test for, and you test positive for COVID, and you have a bit of, and you are symptomatic, you're gone because you can make the rest of the team sick. It's not good for you, and you can make the rest of the peloton sick. So that's about. Hopefully, it doesn't affect the race too much because it's like we kind of forget about COVID, but Almeida was taken out of the Giro and a chance for the podium or better by COVID in the 3rd week last year.
Not fun.
Nope. But yeah, just saying the monitor, I still maintain Groves could have won this from the breakaway. If he'd got in the break, I think it would have been interesting. I think he would have won.
Possible actually today.
The watts per kilo calculations for the stage win are the worst, the worst of 2023 by, I've just got the calculation, by a significant margin. One of the groups did 5.2 watts per kilo for less than 15 minutes, for 13, 14 minutes on the last 4Ks. 5 now it is to altitude.
So, like, for context, what would we expect this to be if it was like the Grand Tour riders all out going against each other?
Like Jonas going full gas or Pogacar. For this duration, 7, 7.2 maybe.
So that's like 120, 130 watts difference.
I can't do maths, but yeah, it's a lot different. Maybe 7, 6.8. You expect worst case, but headwind and whatnot is what happens. Anyway, tomorrow's stage. I don't want to put the mocker on it again because we did that in a bad way yesterday, but I think this should be better. Terni to Fossombrone. It starts with 5Ks, 5.8%, almost out of neutral with a little 3K false flat warm-up. That should allow a strong break to form. We're looking at a Magnus Cort, Ben Healy, Bettiol, EF, Caicedo. The EF have to be in the break tomorrow.
Yeah.
And even a Stefan Kung, I would like to, like FDJ should try and get in the break tomorrow as well. I really think, okay, big bad Sam Omen closes you down a couple of times. Don't give up.
Yep.
Like, I know they're not Wout van Aert. Stefan Kung is on the flat, a pretty close approximation. Just keep trying. Keep trying. There's a lot, especially on that climb, it'll make it harder. Eventually be like, is it worth it for you to, like, especially with Quickstep, was it worth it them closing McNulty down a million times? No. Is it worth whoever closing down an FDJ or an EF? So I would really try and force the issue files, those teams on that climb, and have a stronger break like that Bettiol stage or Oldani stage or whatever, or Crampenart stage a couple of years ago. But the last sort of 25% of the stage is the interesting part. The Cappuccino climb, 3Ks, 7.5%, descent straight into the Monte della Cesane, which is actually quite difficult, 7.8Ks, 6.5%. But the first 3Ks are 10.7%. That's steep. Levels off, little plateau, descent, another little pickup, Montefelcino, 800 meters, 11%, descent, little valley, 2.8Ks, 8%, the Cappuccino climb again, descent, and then maybe little false flat, 2Ks or less uphill to the finish. So this is not as hard as the Bora Torino stage last year, right?
I would not say this is as hard, but there's definitely potential in the sense that, first of all, for the break, like you said, the initial climb at the start makes it that the fight for the break will be quite interesting. And next to that, there's also potential from the peloton to be a GC fight behind the breakaway who is likely going to win the stage, in my opinion, at least. I think Healy wins from the break. I think he's that rider on the where I'm like, this really fits him. Bettiol as well, to be honest. But Healy, this would have been the stage if I was Healy that I would be focusing on to go in the breakaway, because this is really his terrain after the LBLs and so forth of the world. Now, for the rest, GC fight, people need to attack Remco before the time trial. But I also kind of feel like Remco will take time on this stage on certain individuals that are fighting for the podium. Not necessarily on the Roglic, but I fear for Thomas on this.
Yeah, like Thomas, the sprint and punch of Remco and Roglic is obviously superior to Thomas. We saw that in the finish here where those two, maybe Remco was trying, and you listen, this is now, the last two sprints? When Roglic has been obviously trying full gas, Remco has absolutely toasted Roglic in these finishes, Catalunya and now today. And G doesn't really have their firepower. Maybe G just thought, there's no bonus seconds left, you two are clowns. I don't know. So I just checked, it's not as hard as the Torino stage. That was 5Ks, 8%, Superga with quite a bit earlier in the stage. And they did it was harder that stage. I still think you can do something, and this climb with 37Ks to go, let me just check the gradients, Monte della Cesane, it's 2Ks, 10%, I lied, but 10.5% at 2Ks, that is hard. And then, it does look actually a good Remco climb as well, so as you said, but he doesn't need to, because he's got the TT on Sunday, so why is it, and do Jumbo even have the team, Benji? No Tratnik, perfect for this stage and probably for today. Yep. No Foss, no, because Hessing's that guy you can put on the front.
At any point.
Yeah, and Foss also on today, yeah, okay, we have said, is he going to be up there with Poggi and Jonas on serious climbs? No, but on 13K 5%, yeah, sure, he can pull good pace. Like, are they wary of, or are they cautious that can Michael Hessman and Omen and Bowman do this, and Thomas Gloag?
Bowman, I think.
Bowman should be good on the Cappuccino, right?
On the Cappuccino. Are you going to wreck this climb for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
The I Cappuccini climb, I've got respect for Italians. You see on the opposite side of this table is a man that puts pineapple on his pizza that break spaghetti into.
Mock a pot in the dishwasher.
You're a criminal, absolute criminal. But
Cappuccino after 12 p.m.
oh, it hurts. But I agree with you. I completely agree with you. And you also mentioned throughout the week Broe for this race, because Vlasov is a rider that could on paper do well on a stage like this, but how would you see them do it? Because they don't necessarily have the same strength of team that they had in the Giro of Torino stage.
I mean, yeah, they got Jungels is good. He was pacing at the end, but Kemner's, Kemner you would see in the break normally on this stage, but he's going for GC.
Yeah.
I don't know who to pick.
Me neither.
I'm going with McNulty.
You're going up McNulty for the stage?
McNulty again from the breakaway.
How much time is he on today? Is Klaas Lodewijk going to allow him to breakaway?
Klaas, let us know.
McNulty, he's on, well, he lost 6 minutes again today. So if he's not allowed in the break on 13 minutes in GC, then there's like an obsession. Like, is Klaas Lodewijk secretly in love with Brandon McNulty?
No, I think he hates him.
Okay.
I think he hates Brandon McNulty. Because listen, like you got the 5K 6% to form the break. Even if the break is formed and it won't have that much of a gap, it has 10 seconds, McNulty can bridge to that breakaway. So Brandon, my suggestion to you, some free advice. Wait for the break to form a little bit, like Wout did started to do in the Tour de France. Remember when Wout would try and create the break and it created chaos, and then eventually he allowed the break to form and he would jump to it. If I'm McNulty, I'll let a break properly form in that climb. 10 second, I see a bit of a gap, and then I will snap jump to it. Because on that sort of 6% climb, that duration, he's very strong. And then, as we saw in Fornardesh, which he won last year, ahead of Van Sevenant and Koos, in this sort of circuit, he's very, very, very good. He can pace the valley afterwards very, very hard. He's heavier than the sort of pure climbers for the descent. So McNulty, I think, if he gets in this break, will win easily. But I said that the other day.
Who else will go in the breakaway? Because
I keep saying EF and Healy, but
Lekkersen should try and get in the breakaway, Van Avermaet style with the leader's jersey.
I think carrying. I've been thinking about this. Is carrying the leader's jersey worth it? Like I think you do get given a jersey for each stage, so you get to put it on your wall. Are
you saying that Lekkersen should have lost 10 minutes today on Campo Imperatore to go in the breakaway again tomorrow?
Would you rather have one Giro stage or the Maglia Rosa for 3 days?
I fully agree with you.
Because I think if he goes fully for the stage the other day and fully for the stage tomorrow, he obviously has a better chance of winning one. Especially on a hilly circuit like this, which he's been good at in Norway.
We've spoken about the factor of which riders are going in the breakaway for the stage, but who is close enough to take the leader jersey if they go in the break? Patrick Conrad? Or will he stay behind for Vlasov? I feel like that might be the most likely scenario, but he's on 5 minutes in GC. We've got Velasco on 6 minutes in GC. Barguil exists, but he was a bit sick before this race, so I'm not really feeling it. Lorenz Huis
from
Intermarché. Yeah, he's good at hilly terrain.
Yeah.
He was the guy that you got to know in the Hilly Classics a few years ago.
Yeah,
you kept saying, who is?
He was good in Andalusia, actually. He was really good in Andalusia on a hilly stage.
In Flèche Wallonne, Muur de Huis.
I don't know how to say. I still don't know how to say Murderwee. I'm going to say it's murder.
That's correct.
Tom Schoens could go in the breakaway. He lost a lot of time today. Cohen Bowman from the break. I doubt it. Formula Ulysses Covey. I'll say those 3 names again. I really think this is those sort of guys' stage as well. I mean, McNulty. So UAE got to have some guys in the break. I mean, and who's going to, if the break goes, Benji, who's going to control for how long is it? 3 hours. It has to be break win.
I think so as well. When it comes to the Bora riders to go in the breakaway, a Palzer or if I take a look at Dens maybe as like the satellite rider that we saw in Torino, that's what I'm looking for if Bora wants to try something. If they've got one of those riders in the break, then they're going to try something, I think.
Yeah. EF, I just don't know. They seem to
Healy.
They seem to sort of try a little bit to get in the break, and they did try Healy tried a lot the other day.
Healy.
You reckon Healy? Is he your pick?
Healy.
Okay.
Healy.
Healy. I'm going to go with Lorenzo Rota. No, I already went with McNulty. I'm sticking with McNulty, but Intermarché, after being third today, they want to get in the break again. GC, what do you think happens?
I think both Remco and Roglic take time on people. I fear for Almeida on this one. I don't know why, because in the Torino stage, he got fucked in some shape or form. I don't remember how. He got behind before when Bora was
Yeah.
spacing, and then he was being pulled back. But I don't remember if Almeida lost time or anything on that stage.
I feel like he dropped on a descent or something, and then I feel like his descending got better, and then I think the crashes. Now I think the crash has given him the wobbles a little bit. So I don't know. Who knows?
Healy.
Yeah, but GC wise, hopefully someone will try something. It's really steep terrain. It's really steep. It's should be much more selective than today. But yeah, that's all from the Giro d'Italia. Any other news around the traps? Tour de Hungary was on. Mark Hirschi is back. I've been saying this now for
17 years.
A couple of weeks, I think. Hirschi is back. And also the Vuelta, kind of the big Grand Tour of women's cycling in Spain is actually the combination of Burgos, Italia, and the actual La Vuelta. But if you combine the three of them, it's about 2 weeks of racing, and Vollering cleaned everybody up on the first stage again. Her teammate Royce was second. She won all 3 stages, I think, last year, Vollering at Italia. And AVV is here too. So if you want to watch that, GCN Plus is the place to do that as well. So yeah, any other news, Benji? Anything in cycling?
I'm going to go to bed again.
Yeah.
Just like I did during the stage, because this was a snoozer.
It was a snoozer. All right. Thanks for tuning in as always, loyal fans of Cycling and Us. And we'll see you with Stage 8 recap tomorrow. Ciao.